implementing it with SAP's Enterprise Architecture Framework. So I'll briefly talk about the overall framework, the methodology, and then deep dive into the actual reference business architecture. We will look into the industry roadmaps because the way SAP releases these business architecture is through the specific industry content. So I'll talk about those industry roadmap and then the different consumption channels that are available. As an organization, how are you going to access these? And as a engagement in your transformation journey, how are you going to utilize it? We'll briefly talk about an implementation approach and lastly, look at business value. Why do I use this? What will be the benefits of these reference architectures? So we'll touch upon some of those aspects. So that's the predominantly the overall agenda that I'll be covering in the next 30-45 minutes. Let me get into the standards. I think all of us are aware of the open group. So that's predominantly the TOGAF standards that we all enterprise architects use. Most of us also have used the APQC from a business processes, from a best practices, the benchmarking content that are currently available. What SAP has done is we have kind of utilized those and we have brought in our knowledge, the 50 plus years of our industry experience. We are bringing that, and that is what is bringing the SAP business architecture, the content. And this is predominantly available through the business architecture as well as the solution architecture. So those are the two specific areas that I will talk about in the next slides to come. Now here is the overall SAP's enterprise architecture framework. The framework contains 5 elements. We have the methodology. The methodology utilizes these industry best practices or the industry standards. We talked about APQC, we talked about TOGAF, but also SAP brings in our own artifacts, our own the industry-specific contents into the methodology. Today's focus is on the second element, which is the reference architecture content. So the overall framework utilizes the methodology, it utilizes the reference architecture content, and this content is available through the tools. So I'll briefly talk about what are these tools. These can be some of the SAP tools, which I'll talk about, or any of the other industry tools that you may or kind of would like to utilize in your organization. But last but not the least, the practice and the services. Now, this is what makes everything real in your organization. So an EA practice brings everything into your organization. It helps adopting these architectures. It kind of adapts to the methodology that we talked about, and more importantly, put in governance. That governance is key for any EA practice. Then you might have your own services, which you will provide to your businesses, because the existence of this entire framework is to bridge the gap between business and IT. And hence these services will play that role, how you are going closer to your business functions, how an IT engagement is bringing value to a business outcome or a business engagement that is being driven at an organization level. We have few links. I'm not going into the details of that, but a lot of content that SAP publishes on the overall architecture framework that can be accessed by all of you Also, there are few foundational courses, and the entire framework is available on SAP Help, or you can access some of this content from me.sap.com. These this document will be shared, and you can access each of these areas which we are talking about here. Now let's go a little deeper into the methodology. The methodology has these 6 elements, and these are what the key elements which are linking the business and IT, which I talked about earlier. Every organization has a business strategy, and this business strategy is getting kind of operated through a business model. So that is where the organization value comes in. Now, when we drive a transformation, we need to align the strategy and the business model to the business architecture. Now, this business architecture is solution agnostic. That means I'm not talking about any software. I'm not talking about any IT component. We are talking about the business capability. If a organization is operating in a professional services industry, in that industry, I have different business areas, and what are the business capabilities that organization needs to run their day-to-day operations. So that is what will be covered in a business capability model. Now that model gets realized through the business processes. The business process model comes into play to support those capabilities, and then supported by the data model, supported by the role model. So at this stage in the business architecture, we are still, let me get a, just give me a minute. I'm trying to get a pen on the screen. Yeah. So the business architecture is what the business is going to be aligned, looking at how they do their day-to-day operations. Now that's when the EA aspect comes in, or any architecture or an enterprise architecture or a solution architecture brings in the business content into real life design. That's where the solution capability model will come in under the solution architecture. You will have the actual process models. This is where whether it is the business process model or the APQC models will come into the actual business processes, and you will get into your data model and the application model. So with the solution architecture, the business architecture gets real, and together these two becomes the reference architecture. So we will look into how SAP provides some of the industry content for each of these elements, and this is then gets into the actual execution. You put your roadmap, you put in your landscape, and then you do your actual solution design, you do your build, you do your execution. All of those implementations comes into play, and which will be an iterative. So once I have my organizational business architectures defined, I have my solution architecture gets kind of evolved based on each of these engagements that we will drive. So that's in a nutshell the overall enterprise architecture methodology for us. Today's focus, we will go into the reference architecture, the content of it. We kind of talked about what is in there. The content has on the business side, we have the business capability model, the business process, and the data model, which SAP delivers through the SAP reference business architecture. So these are, we have end-to-end processes for 26 plus industries, predominantly covered at the business domain level or the business areas, which will then actually deliver the capabilities for you. So As an enterprise architect, using these reference architecture, you can then create your business capability map. Through the map, you can get into the value or the business, the process models into the business content. That gets aligned to the SAP's reference solution architecture. Now, the solution architecture where my capability is getting delivered through a specific solution. Let's say I talk about an order to cash, and order to cash, when I'm delivering it on the cash or the payment side, something which is coming from an ERP, but I might have a CRM solution, but I'm kind of using few non integrated siloed solutions, but can I bring all of them together to realize this business capability? So all of those elements of a solution, the capabilities of that, the process flow for the actual execution, the BPMN, the business process, the models can come in from the solution architecture. Earlier, we talked about the tooling. The tooling, mainly from an SAP's point of view, we have an integrated tool chain, but on the concept of the business architecture, we focus predominantly on Linux. That's where your business capabilities are kind of available. We have the reference content that can be utilized in the Linux catalog. This will get aligned to your solutions. So in the reference content, we have the SAP solutions. You can look into which are the standard solutions which can provide these business capabilities. And based on that, you can start your transformation. Now, when you are getting into the transformation, that's where you will go deeper into the business processes. So each of the business domain that we earlier talked about has the business capabilities, which will then get into the specifics of a business process. The process modeling can be done in Signavio. So Signavio has the process modeling capabilities as well as it has the collaboration capabilities. And from a reference point of view, SAP delivers the best practices in Signavio. Earlier, we had right from our ASAP days, SAP had the best practices. Now, most of those best practices, whether it is the model company or the industry specific content, are all available in Signavio. So with this, the entire business architecture kind of comes alive. We have the methodology, which we kind of utilized it from the industry standards. We have the actual content, which is the reference content on the business architecture or the reference content on the solution architecture delivered through these tools at Linux or Signavio. But some of these you can also look at saying that what if an organization is not using Signavio? I might be using Aris. I might be using some other process modeling tool or some other enterprise architecture tool. Can I use this content? So you can very well have an integration with these content into your own process modeling tools. So we can also look at or support you on how these best practice content or the reference content can be made available to your own tools. Otherwise, if you are kind of looking at SAP's support, so from our point of view, the Linux and Signavio will be the go-to tools through which we deliver this content. Let's look into what this content is all about. What are these core elements of the business architecture? So on the left-hand side, so that is where the enterprise domain comes in. Now this is industry specific. So we will have a consumer industry or a discrete industry. So that's where you can look at your line of business and look for the industry specific or the cross industry content. And every reference content will have these enterprise domains. These are divided into five predominant areas which fits into every organization. So your products and services, how do you develop these products? How will you, if you are into the services industry, you develop your services, you fulfill the demand through the supply area, you generate and work on the demand for the customers, and then the corporate plans, manages, and kind of delivers the enterprise. So those are the five domains which the structure of the business architecture is divided into. And then each of these have the process models. Now, the process model for the product is the idea to market. On the supply side, we have the source to pay or the plan to fulfill. Now, this gets into the business capability. Each of these areas, my products, how am I developing these products? I'm doing some R&D. I'm doing my engineering. Once I have done my R&D, I'm kind of defining my product. I'm managing the products. Those are my product management. So I'm just taking one example there where your entire the enterprise domain on the product and the services side gets into the business process model, and the process model has the business capability model. Now, all of this will get into the solutioning through the applications. So at this level, what I will kind of in your process modeling or the enterprise architecture tools, you will go into the next levels where the business architecture will get aligned to your solution architecture, and each of these solution architecture is getting delivered through the set of applications. So that's how the structure will be looking. I'll take a pause here. Mukesh, is it okay to take few questions? I've been talking for some
Yeah,
time.
yeah, we can. It's a good idea to do that as well. So we have a question from Poonam. She's asking, do we need to have middleware to integrate Lean IX and Signavio?
That's a good question, Poonam. No, we don't need any middleware because these are as part of SAP's integrated tool chain. So when we talked about the business architecture, to let me go back one moment here. Yes. So on the Linux, I have my reference business architecture. I can import it from the reference catalog. The catalogs are defined industry specific. And once I have my business capabilities defined, I can directly connect to Signavio and through a click of a button, transfer each of these reference architecture into the process models. And I'm not talking about Cloud ALM in this screen, but that is the actual realization aspect. When we kind of again going back here on this element, when you're actually doing your build and run, you will do that in Cloud ALM from SAP's point of view or any of your project management methodologies. That is what is kind of actually delivering the solutions for your transformation. So all of these are natively integrated. So you don't need any middleware. You don't need too much of an effort to integrate. Click of a button, all of these can be hand-holded to the next phase of your transformation engagement.
Hope
Yeah,
that
thank you.
helps.
Thank you. And Sai, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
about if I have a service now where I have all the applications already registered in the organization. So do we have some kind of an integration of service now with Linux?
Okay, that's again another good question. See, the Linux has SaaS adapters. So we have something called a discovery in Linux. So when I have to define my applications, I can obviously define them manually, which might be useful when you have a a kind of a homegrown system. You still want to define something manually. But any of these standard SaaS products, LeanIX has adapters available, whether it is ServiceNow, whether it is Salesforce. You can use those adapters and discover these applications. And once those applications have been discovered in LeanIX, you can map them to the respective processes. So on the business architecture, when you have modeled, you have the business capability. Some of these business capabilities are getting delivered, let's say on the sales side through Salesforce for some organization. Some other processes are with SAP CX. And in the question that you asked, if ServiceNow is kind of serving some of these business processes, I can do that mapping. And most of the standard SaaS solutions, we have these adapters or the for the discovery already available with Linux.
Thank you.
And Poonam, by the way, we will be running a deep dive on Linux and Signavio separately as well. So you will get the invites shortly as part of this series of activities.
Thank
So
you.
thanks. Girish is asking, what are the business values flow diagram and solution value flow diagrams available? What is the difference between the two?
Okay. Again, let me come back here. So um, as I highlighted, I'll kind of put a roadmap slide for the business architecture, what are available. So these are at different industry specific content. And this is more from a business capability. That means when an organization is delivering a business function, in this example, I am doing my product engineering. So the business capability model looks into capability, which is solution agnostic. I can deliver this capability using SAP's PLM solution, or I can deliver this using, let's say, Honeywell's has a solution for the R&D. I can also do that. So everything that you are defining in the business capability is more from what the business is doing today for the business capability. Anything that we do in the solution architecture, this is where will become the actual business process flow or a solution from a solution point of view. That means in this example, when I talk about engineering processes, I had talked about R&D. Under R&D, I might have the process for doing a prototype for a product, which is my business capability. But how will I do the actual process flow? I will do it in SAP PLM differently. I will do it in Honeywell PLM differently. So the solution architecture will be specific to a application, and you will put a process flow which is more to utilize that from the actual design when you go into the implementation. That's where Signavio will be able to help you, where in Signavio we have the business process content. The process explorer will provide you those specific L1, L2, L3 processes, which is our traditional business process modeling, right? So those are available. So the major difference is at a business capability level, these are solution agnostic, predominantly focusing on a end business function. At a solution capability or the business flow level, process flow level, that is more aligned with an application, which you will utilize to deliver these business capabilities. Hope I was able to answer.
You can move on now. Sorry.
Sure. So quick example, even though I was talking about the R&D there, so let's look at it from what is available. Yeah, so this is one, maybe another major difference. Your business capability model has the what of the business. The solution capability has the how of the business. So I'm the end business user or a business owner is kind of focused on what is that required for his business to run. IT helps on the how factor of it. Now, in this example, the business capability is looking for the recruitment. So they have a recruitment process, and for that recruitment, I am now doing my recruitment in success factor for some of the capabilities. Let's say the DocuSign or the signature management on the recruitment, all of that is available in SuccessFactor. But I might be doing some activity, the e-recruitment is available on S4, and I'm doing few uh, contingent workforce recruitment, who are my temporary workforce. I'm doing that in Fieldglass. And finally, I'm doing a lot of my um, actual localization requirements or any of the kind of their payroll, all of that in ERP. So all of these solution capabilities are coming into play to cater to the business capability and the different solution components which are supporting these solution capability. So that's how the business capability, the what, is getting converted into the solution capabilities through the how am I going to deliver these actual requirements through the available solution components. This is one quick example. I talked earlier about the reference catalog, which is available in Linux. So you have the reference catalog for the different industry. So in my administrative uh, area for Linux, I can go into the advanced settings, and that's where the reference catalog is available, from where I can pick up the industries and then pick up the business capabilities which are relevant for my industry, and the entire business capability, the business capability model, and the data aspects will come into your Linux. And then you can also look into the process side of it. On the process side, Signavio plays the role where I have the process collaboration hub where all of these accelerators are available. This you can look at it from the best practice content that we had. We had a lot of these best practices for each of the uh, SAP versions, let's say on right from ECC days. But with S4, we had earlier the model company, and with the model company, we had the best practice content which are available. Now, all of them are getting consolidated into these value accelerators, and these value accelerators are available for your consumption through Signavio. This is the high level roadmap. This keeps changing. As all of you know, the roadmap we kind of keep on adding. On the consumer industries, we have the content for retail, we have content for consumer products, life sciences, or the wholesale business. Uh, Currently, the ones which we are working on are on the agri side. But if you look at the discrete industry, that has been kind of available for quite some time, whether it is on the automotive or the industrial manufacturing, the aerospace defense. On the services industry, we have the professional services, travel and transportation. So all the major industries are covered, and some of the latest ones, the sports entertainments, defense, on the BFSI, the banking, insurance, or the higher education on the services industry, these are currently available. Now, how do you consume these? We talked about some of the tools. If you don't have access currently to any of these tools, SAP also has few of these explore or the playgrounds available for you. So I have provided the link for Linux. The playground is accessible here. Um, in Linux, everything is kind of structured through the inventory, which has these artifacts. These fact sheets will then define your business capability, your business processes, all of that. You can play around, you can look for each industry, what is available. And on the process side, you can look into the Process Explorer. So the Process Explorer has the end-to-end business domain and the business areas, and you can deep dive into some of the interesting or your relevant areas. I have also provided few links here on the different SAP official channels where you can get the help portal, this specific link to the RBA, the business architecture. We have few learning content where you can go into the education and have some of these sessions kind of at your self-paced. You can learn about what is the entire EAM, SAP's enterprise architecture methodology, what is available on the five elements of the architecture framework. All of that is available in the learning hub. Definitely, SAP community has lot of content. We have blog posts, we have some of these RBA materials and comments on how different organizations are using. Last but not least, SAP for me. You can also access the reference solution architecture and the business architecture from SAP for me. So this is more for you to explore and check how through SAP for me, you can have a glimpse of it. And if you are satisfied that this is going to add value in your transformation, you can then go into the actual tooling where you can consume them. I'll take a pause again. Any questions on these consumption channels?
Not so far. So if anyone has a question, maybe you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
See, if there are any architects in the call, I would strongly recommend you to access this playground. The Linux playground is a kind of uh, almost all the key reference business content is available in the playground. So you can look for your industry, what content is available. You can look for a specific business capability and talk to your business teams how these capabilities is actually mapping from their business perspective. And then you put your architecture hat and look into the actual solution area, how the actual solutioning happens through the different levels of the business process, the L1 to L3, where you actually do the actual design and deliver.
So can I ask you a question? Okay, so there is a question from Ankit. Any real life example where organizations have used Signavio and LeanIX and they have benefited? Any
Uh,
case study?
Case study. So definitely we can publish some of the case study. I have couple of slides where I'm trying to give you an implementation approach. But when I talk about, let's say, let's go back to this specific example where we are talking about recruitment. And the reason we picked up this is uh, some of these capabilities can be delivered through many different solutions. Linux as a tool, it's not specific to one application or one OEM. Linux is enterprise wide. So many of the large enterprises need an enterprise architecture tool like Linux so that you can document whether it is your SAP applications, your homegrown custom applications, or your other SaaS solutions. All of that can brought into the Linux application repository. and use our reference content to align your business capabilities, where you define which are these business capabilities referenced in the reference architecture is relevant for you, pick and choose, but also customize it. So, because we are not saying that the reference architecture is 100% aligned to every requirement, you customize it and then you align it to your specific solution components that you utilize. And we can provide some of the references. Maybe Mukesh, I'll take that as an action, and then we can pick up few references where we have used the end-to-end integrated tool chain in any of our kind of engagements or through SIs where we have delivered, and we can provide that. But that's where I will go into the next level on how you utilize it in the implementations. But I'll take a pause if there are any other questions there. Okay. If not, Mukesh, you were saying something.
No, so I was saying, I will.
Yeah, I have
I'm
a
going to
question. I mean, sorry, I'm sorry.
go on. Go on,
Please
Shantanu.
go on.
Yeah. Hello. This is Shantanu here. I'm from Hindustan Petroleum. So now I'm heading the enterprise architecture vertical, which is just set up recently over
Okay.
here. So because we will be starting from the scratch, so I had a discussion. So on the slide with respect to the reference business architecture. So I mean, when we are starting this practice per se from the beginning, so how do we proceed? We identify the business processes, what you mentioned, based on the enterprise domains, and then we decide on what is the as-is inventory, what is the inventory of applications, what we have, and then decide on the roadmap ahead, and how do we start that practice?
Okay, that's a very good question, and thank you, Satish, for this. I'll come back to this overall framework.
Yeah.
The way I would recommend you is please look into the SAP EAM. So I have links for the SAP's enterprise architecture methodology.
Okay.
This methodology talks about how are you going to utilize some of these industry standards. So this will at a high level give you the overall what standards, because many organizations may or may not directly use the open groups, the entire TOGAF framework, right? So
Right.
if you are SAP centric organization, I would recommend you to use an EAM, because EAM is kind of a customized, enhanced version of TOGAF's approach, where we are kind of defining the methodology and then utilize the reference content. As you rightly said, look into the reference content, look for the business capabilities relevant for your organization. You can start small. My recommendation will be look for one business area where you can look at the reference content, utilize that as a baseline. You augment any of your niche areas where you might find that, okay, this business capability is not available in the reference model, SAP's reference model. So you include that and you define your business capability and then utilize the solution, the RSA, the solution architecture,
Architecture. Mhm.
and then look at how are you going to utilize the tools for that. And at the same time, I would suggest that if you are looking at these three elements, you can start small, start with a particular business domain, but in parallel, start on your practice, because you are delivering or you are kind of establishing a EA practice for your
Yeah.
organization. So look into our methodology. This will define some of the components of how the practice needs to be set up,
Okay.
what kind of governance an EA needs to drive, so that whatever you have defined in the business capability, it's not cast in stone. The business
Yeah.
will undergo changes. You will have to optimize that. So what kind of governance is required to manage those change management? And then using these two links, you can start looking into your actual transformation engagements.
Okay. Thank,
I would
thank.
suggest maybe let's kind of reach out. You can reach out to your respective account owners, and we will be more than happy to support you kind of through our enterprise architects on how we can accelerate your kind of the practice setup.
Fine. Sounds good. Thank you.
One of the ways that I have seen some of the customers use this is, let's say your business identifies a particular area of your business that you want to optimize or improve. You can come in and look at the reference architecture, look at the business capability, and see if there is a particular tool that you have already licensed that can actually solve that problem. So many times it has happened that some of those optimization is easily possible because you already have the product licensed, but you're not using the capability of the tool itself. Because you've not upgraded the tool to the latest version, or you've not switched on certain capabilities that the tool already provides as part of the innovation, ongoing innovation. So that's also something that I've seen customers do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Let me now go to the kind of this is something I just thought I'll kind of put some pointers because many of the organizations want to leverage the overall the business architecture. So this is something just now even Mukesh highlighted. So you look for your specific industry business capabilities. So you can import that and then start doing the funnel kind of an approach where you can look at the specific business capability that you might want to reference. And as we said, this is going to be a baseline, and you then start tailoring that based on your niche areas. So that way, instead of you starting from the scratch, this gives you a baseline. And because this is industry specific, you don't have to kind of get into a very generic content and then customize it on a kind of the majority of the business capabilities that are available, but pick and choose which is a specific most matching area, and then adapt these capabilities to kind of match those specific organizational requirements and processes. And once you have this, you will link that to the solution architecture. Now, this is where the reference content plays also a major role, because we, from an SAP point of view, we will highlight what are the different ways of delivering this business capability. In today's world, even for SAP's different capabilities, you might realize an IBP in kind of your forecasting or your planning in a tool like IBP, but you can also do some bit of planning in SAC. So the business capability will decide the complexity that your organization is looking at. You might need a very kind of detailed demand forecasting. Then, based on the business capability, the reference content will suggest you to utilize IBP. Or if you are doing a very kind of short term planning, and an SAC planning will suit that, the business capability comes down to the specific capabilities, and the reference content will be able to tell you that, okay, there is capability in IBP, but there is also capabilities in SAC. Similarly, the example that we saw earlier for recruitment, I can do my recruitment in SuccessFactors, but I can also do some bit of the recruitment in my S4, the HCM on S4. So all of those kind of overlapping solutions you can identify, but also wherever there are niche other players in your organizations where non-SAP components are used, you can put those solution capabilities into the solution architecture. And based on this, the multi-layer filtering, you can do it very tailored to a specific capability map. So that's where I was earlier advising, saying that like, start small, start with one department of yours or one business domain of yours. And if there are organizations, large organizations who have cross industry, multiple industry in there, then you can also utilize these filtering to work on those multiple industry content in one go. Otherwise, you have a very structured funnel model that you can put in there. So that is what I thought, okay, I'll put in as an implementation approach where you can utilize all of the available reference content, customize it, adapt it to your business requirements of your organization, and then map it to your specific solution architecture, the how part of it, the predominant, the what, and the how that can be brought in there. Lastly, again, I thought, okay, this is also, I think one of the question earlier, what is the difference between RBA and RSA? But I thought I'll put in when you use RBA and when you will use RSA. So the business capability is at a strategic level, which is kind of at a high level where you are working with your executive sponsors, your business owners. This is predominantly industry specific, but it is agnostic to any specific product or a solution. So at this level, business does not care how do I realize this. They are predominantly focusing on the what part of it, the business capability of it. On the RSA, you are getting into the actual product or a solution, and that's where your technical architecture comes into play. Your actual solution design happens. You have your multiple levels of the business processes aligned to the solution design. Your implementation project utilizes this, and you use these different components or any of the validations that are there. You will do your integration planning, you will do your actual data. So you will define the processes from a data point of view, your data flows, and the specific product that you are using for the implementation. So these are, I thought, just call out the major differences. I'll take a pause here again. Anything, any other queries or?
Yeah,
I don't
Sai,
have
I
any.
have a question.
Go on, please.
Yes, Sai. Most organizations now want to start their AI journey, right? So, do these reference content also give a bit of an insight on what are those AI use cases which we could adopt?
Hmm. Sure, definitely. So when we started the conversations, we talked about these innovations. So what definitely that's something we can do. The way we can orchestrate this is again at two levels. One at a business level where we can identify for which business capability I might be using these AI innovation. Let's say I'm doing my performance management or goals management. That's my business capability. And let's say SAP has the Joule capabilities for performance management, where either when I'm setting my goals or the performance, I'm using some of the AI capabilities to document my goals and to collate my performances. So, what we can do is define the business capability and put an attribute for innovations, and those innovations can then be linked to either a specific AI capability or an agent.
Okay.
Linux has an agentic governance as well, where what we suggest to the customers, because nowadays there are agents coming up like mushrooms, right? It will be in SAP, it will be in non-SAP. Your Azure team is developing agents. Your SAP team is developing agents. How do you orchestrate? You can orchestrate all of them through Linux because Linux has the business capabilities, Linux has also the applications, and hence it can be that governing factor where you can define and bring that visibility across the different business capabilities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else has a question? So maybe you can move on to the next slide if you have any.
Yes, so that's my last slide. More from whatever we talked about. We have seen this in practice. We have seen how customers are getting benefited. So the major benefit that I can call out is as an enabler. So the reference content can enable you to navigate the different offerings. I think this is the specific point which Mukesh mentioned earlier. You might have a product already, but you might not be aware that that product has this capability. So if we can bring you that business capability view and from a product agnostic business capability, but then align it to a specific product, that's a big win from our point of view. Because that way, what we have done is we have given you some reference content, we have given you the product catalog, and we are also giving you that visibility where you can define your relevant required business capability and identify in which application this capability can be realized. The second aspect is accelerating your implementation because we might not be starting from the scratch. I always have a reference point. I have this visibility on the available business capabilities or the solution processes. That definitely helps me my implementation timelines, and we are utilizing this from the experiences of our kind of industry best practices, and you can definitely look for your process improvements and acceleration into your implementation. Lastly, the solution consumption. So this helps you give that application level visibility, and you can utilize the consumption more from kind of the business improvements. As I said, you might be doing multiple iterations of your transformation, and when you are doing those additional enhancements, you can look at how these solutions are being consumed and the adoption framework, or highlighting how much of the solution capabilities are actually mapping to your business capability. So, are there white spaces? White spaces on your business side, which may or may not be managed through the same application. And you can do some bit of harmonizing there. If I'm using three or four applications, but my major ERP has these capabilities, can I harmonize? So that way you can look at how you can bring your solution consumption to a much higher level. So that's predominantly what I had to present. Hope uh, we were able to consume some of those available reference architecture in the as a next steps. From the SAP team, we'll be more than happy to help you handhold, help you navigate what is available and how you can consume in a very contextual manner, where on the Hindustan Petroleum example, where if you are setting an EA practice, what kind of content will be relevant for you and how you can adopt them. Or if
Yes.
you're on an organization who have already started an end-to-end transformation, how can you use these contents? Or you're just starting a data harmonization journey. Can this be of use? Poonam asked about on the AI side. you're doing some AI innovations, can this content be of help to you? So please kind of reach out to us either through the Indus channel or through your respective SAP stakeholders, and we will get the right teams to support you there.
I thought I heard someone asking a question. So Shantanu, you are unmuted. So do you have a question?
Uh, Actually, I had that. Matlab, it's not specifically related to that. I mean, are there any frameworks or models for evaluation of this, architecture decisions or technology stack decisions? Like,
Hmm.
just wanted to understand that. I mean,
Yes. So, as part of Lean IX, we have kind of the entire approach on the enterprise architecture. We have the different models available, and whether it is for harmonizing your IT applications, or whether it is for identifying set of capabilities for an application based on not just the business capability, but from a data privacy point of view, but from the localization of the data, all of those aspects that is available in Linux.
okay, okay. Thank you.
So I will share the link, the recording on the Indus platform. So if you are not already part of the online platform where we will share more reading material and more relevant updates as well. So I'm putting that link on the chat. So please do sign up for the platform. Any further questions? I know we are on top of the hour. We have a minute or so to go. Any questions from anybody else? Maybe one last question. The links to all the material that Sai spoke about will be there in the slides. Sai, please do send me the slides so that I can upload the slides as well on the platform so that they can access it. And yeah, so to conclude, I will only say one thing, which is, given the complexity that we already have and with the amount of agents that we are going to build in all organizations, if we do not think about architecture right from the starting, we will end up in a place where the tech debt that the people talk about is going to spiral out and make it that much more difficult to adopt any new innovations or adopt any new roll out any new technology to drive business value. So irrespective of what you do, please do think about all the decisions from the longer term perspective. And I think from a technology point of view, Linux Signavio combination does that, does help you in doing exactly that. So with that, thank you so much, Sai. Thank you so much, Ebony, and thank you so much, Poonam, for helping us put together this session. I hope it was useful, helpful. And we'll again come back to you next month with a different topic around enterprise architecture as a practice. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in those sessions as well.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for the interactive kind of participation. See you there.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.